During the early 1970s, something horrible stalked the town of Enfield, Illinois. Although Illinois is already home to phenomena such as strange lights, phantom black panthers, and thunderbirds, something even stranger briefly haunted the people of this town. On April the 25th, 1973, Henry McDaniel was among the first to encounter this terrible monstrosity known as the Enfield Horror. Henry McDaniel encounter. At about 9:30 p.m. that night, McDaniel and his wife had returned home and were greeted by their two children, Lil and Henry. The kids proceeded to tell him a tale about how some thing had tried to get into the house by scratching on the door. Shortly thereafter, Henry was alerted to a particularly strange scratching sound at his front door. He expected to see a dog or a cat, but what he met instead was far stranger. When Henry found, to his terror, was a creature, quote, had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. It stood 4.5 feet tall and was grayish colored. It was trying to get into the house, unquote. Henry was completely mortified by the sight of this horrible apparition. He slammed the door and rushed to grab his .22 pistol and a flashlight. Henry proceeded to fire on the creature 4 times, and according to him, quote, when I fired that first shot, I knew I hit, unquote. The beast hissed at him and proceeded to bound away in long leaps across the yard, eventually becoming lost to McDonald's sight as it made its way towards the railroad and the cover of the trees. He asserted that he had seen the thing cover 50 feet in 3 leaps. Stunned by the encounter, Henry proceeded to call the police. Upon investigation, the state troopers discovered a series of scratches in the siding of the house and footprints that were very similar to a dog's, but having 6 toes instead of 4. 2 of the tracks were 4 inches wide, while the print left by the 3rd foot was smaller. Many on the police force were skeptical about what McDaniel had seen, despite having just received news of an attack on a small boy just 30 minutes earlier. The creature had ripped at the child's clothes with the claws on its arms, while the talons on the toes had shredded the kid's shoes. However, the police couldn't find any trace of the entity, so things cooled down for the moment. However, on May the 6th at 3 a.m., Henry encountered the creature again. After having been roused from his sleep by the commotion from the neighbor's dogs, once again he saw the creature loitering about near the train tracks. This went on for several minutes until the entity casually bounced away into the night. McDaniel later said, quote, I saw something moving out on the railroad track, and there it stood. I didn't shoot at it or anything. It started on down the railroad track. It wasn't in a hurry or nothing, unquote. Then afterward of the Enfield horror had gotten around, people began to flock to the small town in hopes of seeing the thing. They were very enthusiastic, but they were also intrusive. This prompted the local sheriff, Ray Postherd Jr., to warn McDaniel about keeping his mouth closed, or he would be forced to incarcerate McDaniel. Over the next few months, the crowds began to grow larger. With larger crowds came increased alarm among the citizens of Enfield. Some among them were genuine monster hunters, while others were just hunters or thrill seekers with guns. This forced the sheriff's hand, particularly when he had to arrest 5 gun-toting hunters for shooting at a gray thing that ran through the woods. 2 of those hunters, Mike McGull and Roger Tappy, Both swore that they had witnessed a, quote, gray monkey, unquote, quickly move through the underbrush. Sheriff Posthard made numerous threats against Henry McDaniel, who was convinced that there was something very strange going on. Shortly thereafter, once the frenzy of hunters and tourists had died down, 4 more people saw the Enfield horror. Rick Rainbow Encounter. On Sunday, May the 6th, Rick Rainbow, the then director of radio station WWKI in Comio, Indiana, was searching an area with 3 friends when they saw something that was about 5.5 feet in height, gray and stooped over, running through the woods near an abandoned house. The entity moved with an unnatural speed and quickly vanished from the 4 men's sight. However, Rick Rainbow claimed to have recorded the creature's eerie shriek as it ran away from them on a tape recorder. Despite investigation by world-renowned cryptozoologist Loren Coleman, the attention that the sightings received eventually died down. The creature hasn't been seen since. Loren told the press, quote, "I traveled to Enfield, interviewed the witnesses, looked at the siding of the house the Enfield monster had damaged, heard some strange screeching banshee-like sounds, and walked away bewildered." Unquote. Mount Vernon creature. Between the years of 1941 and 1942, there were a string of similar sightings in the small village of Mount Vernon. These encounters involved a mysterious leaping beast that terrorized the local people and is supposedly responsible for numerous animal deaths and mutilations in the region. The locals called the creature the Mount Vernon Monster and described it as being vaguely bamboo-like in appearance and able to leap anywhere from 20 to 40 feet in a single bound. However, this creature is linked more to the devil monkey than the Enfield monster. It is still a very good possibility that the 2 creatures are in fact the same. Out of the night he came, a leaping, bounding Superman who terrified the English nation for more than 60 years. At first, tales of this devil-like creature who leaped from rooftop to rooftop was accepted as hysterical nonsense. But in January 1838, this strange creature received official recognition when a barmaid, Polly Adams, was attacked while walking across Blackheath in South London. Mary Stevens, a servant girl, was terrified by what she saw on Barnes Common, and in Clapham churchyard a woman was assaulted. Lucy Scales, a butcher's daughter, was attacked in Limehouse, and Jane Alsop was almost strangled by a cloaked creature in her own home before her family managed to beat off her attacker, at which point he leapt and soared off into the darkness. Jane Alsop described her inhuman attacker to London magistrates. Quote, "He was wearing a kind of helmet and tight-fitting white costume like oilskin, and he vomited blue and white flames." Unquote. The Lord Mayor of London, Sir John Conan, received complaints from several parts of London describing a demonic creature with eyes like balls of fire and hands like ice claws, and able to bound from rooftop to rooftop with ease. The police did not dismiss these stories, and even the Duke of Wellington, although aged nearly 70, went out armed on horseback to hunt and kill the monster. Who was this mysterious fiend who roamed London attacking women? During the 1850s and 60s, Spring Heel Jack was also seen all over England, particularly in the Midlands. The army in 1870 set traps to catch him after scared sentries reported being terrified by a man who sprang on the roof of their sentry box. Also in 1870, angry townsfolk in Lincoln are reported to have shot him in the street, but he just laughed and bounded away, leaping over fences and even small buildings. For a while, as no one really had any idea who he was, suspicion rested on the eccentric young Marquis of Waterford, but he was never vicious, even though he was considered wild by Victorian society and had been branded as the Mad Marquis. Spring Heel Jack was last seen in 1904 at Everton in Liverpool, bounding up and down the streets, leaping from cobbles to rooftops and back. He vanished into the darkness when some brave souls tried to corner him, and he has not been seen till this day. So the puzzle still remains. Who or what was Spring Heel Jack? Hello everybody, I hope you've been enjoying these so far. One more and we are at Halloween. I'm uploading this late. It's almost the witching hour, midnight. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And the next time I see you, it'll be All Hallows Eve. Peace, love. I love you all. Be safe out there and have a good day.